We're surrounded by barrier islands on the Suncoast, some with pricey real estate on them like Longboat Key and Anna Maria Island. Others are disappearing before our eyes. Today we're discovering the Suncoast in one of those vanishing islands. It's called Egmont Key. This is Egmont Key. At first glance and far away, this 4,000-year-old island looks like paradise. But when you get close, it's not doing so well. Half of the island has washed away into the Gulf of Mexico in the last 150 years. Just north of Anna Maria Island, you'll find two barrier islands. Uninhabited Passage Key, which vanished beneath the waves after a hurricane 100 years ago. It gradually reappeared and varies in size from 1 acre to 30 acres as tides and storms come and go. Less than 2 miles north is Egmont Key. You can only get here in your own boat or a daily ferry from Pinellas County. Patty Winkler is a local who has boated to the Key many times in 20 years.
Does it look different to you from the time you were here before?
This looks way different right here.
This is way different. So there's some stonework, just to our right there. Yeah. Was that
was part of it.
Was that here the last time you were here? Could you see that?
Not the stuff that looks craggly.
Those are the remains of the power plant that used to be in the middle of the island. Approaching on the west side of the island, there is an eerie ghost town feel. With a deep shipping channel north of the Key, Professor Uzi Baram told me this was the perfect spot to defend Tampa.
The Gulf of Mexico was a hot zone of international competitions. Battles among the English and the Spanish for control of the Gulf of Mexico and the sea lanes. It was important with the American Civil War, with Union troops coming in and blockading the Confederate state of Florida. It's important during the Spanish-American War to both protect Tampa Bay and afford base to attack Cuba.
In 1898, Fort Dade is built to defend America in the Spanish-American War. That war is over in less than 4 months, but Fort Dade is completed 8 years after the war ended. The gun battery named McIntosh looked imposing in 1915. Well, that same area looks sturdy now, but it's on the side of the Key that's eroding fast. Dr. Laura Harrison from USF leads a team trying to preserve the island on computer.
It is, maybe 30 or 40 feet away from the coastline at this time. So we really want to document it before it's gone.
Digital scans will preserve the memory of what was here. Very little remains of the wooden buildings of the fort. Federal marshals burned the buildings when they found bootleggers using the Key during Prohibition. A lightning fire in 2006 burned much of the brush, like these palm trees, blackened but still standing. Now, Egmont Key is a national wildlife refuge. Birds and fish thrive on the island. Gopher tortoises own the place. 2023 seems to be a good year for grape leaves. The abandoned lighthouse stands, for now, watching over the few caretakers who live here and the tourists who snorkel or walk these deserted lanes. All the while, the grains of sand wash into the Gulf of Mexico, one by one. Dr. Harrison is making high-resolution scans of the entire Key before the fort is gone. But should we also spend millions to try and actually save the Key, or should we just let it go and wash into the Gulf? That's the question we explore in Egmont Key, Part 2. This is Fort Dade on Egmont Key in 1905. This is Fort Dade now. The old power plant, old gun batteries, once firmly on solid ground, now sinking into the waves of the Gulf. The island has lost half of its landmass in the last 150 years. It's the west side that's eroding. Dr. Laura Harrison is making a digital record of what's left of the fort before more of the solid ground is lost.
However, the island is shifting and some would say disappearing. And that's partially because the island does not have any bedrock that it sits on. The western side of the island is eroding relatively rapidly.
The scans are done with LiDAR, like radar, but using laser light to create digital detailed records. That includes the interior of the old lighthouse, which is not open to visitors.
And over the course of 3 days, we took some USF students in there and we did a full detailed LiDAR scan of the lighthouse interior. And so that is for the purposes, of course, of preservation, as well as providing virtual access to a site that almost no one has the ability to physically enter and enjoy.
Gun Battery McIntosh looks permanent right now, sitting 30 to 40 feet from the shore.
And so we went out there in May with a team from USF. We documented the entire structure, and we also documented the beach to the west of the structure.
That was before Hurricane Ian. After the storm, there was no visible damage from the storm, so the team did another LiDAR scan.
And right to the west of Battery McIntosh, we lost about 385 cubic meters of sand from that beach.
That's 640 tons of sand washed away. Beyond the physical history of the Key is a cultural history. Before the Americans and the English and the Spanish, native Floridians used the resources of the island. Professor Uzi Baram told the story of a native canoe found there.
A canoe from probably just after the Spanish came in the 1500s, that clearly was a sailing vessel. So it was a canoe, but there's a place for a mast for a sail. And it really gives us a sense of how the Seminole people didn't just use canoes for rivers, but to cross the Gulf.
Egmont Key was used as a holding area during the relocation of the Seminoles.
The Egmont Key was used as a containment camp, and sometimes even referred to as a concentration camp for Seminoles who were captured and sent on the Trail of Tears.
The Trail of Tears, the forced relocation of tribes to Oklahoma.
Archaeologists, recognizing the significance of the Key, met with members of the Seminole Tribe of Florida to consult about what to do in terms of conservation and preservation of that history of Native peoples on the island. There's no way to prevent the erosion of that island, and so the decision is to let the Creator take it away.
That is exactly what's happening as the grains of sand wash into the Gulf of Mexico.